Hello everybody and welcome to Astro Pillars Astrology. We're going to talk about the up and coming new moon in Scorpio that is about to take place on the 20th to the 11th this month. And just a few quick announcements. Thanks to everyone giving me their date of birth for Year of the Horse. My annual Year of the Horse talk. So if you guys are interested in that, I am doing one, and I'm decided to do one. I think I told everyone last time I'll be doing one on Substack, but I'm also doing a live on YouTube as well. So I'll be doing 2 lives on this, and I'm just giving you guys the heads up now. My Year of the Horse talk is on the way. It'll be coming soon, which I'll put up on my YouTube channel, but I'll also do a live one as well, which gives everyone an opportunity. So if you're interested in Chinese astrology and the up and coming year of what's coming up, then DM me, direct message me, either on my Instagram channel, or if you feel comfortable, you can leave your date of birth and time in the comments. And people who participate in this, I will give you the rundown of what's coming up for you, a brief rundown of what the Year of the Horse entails for you, for those interested in Chinese astro, because it's a little bit different, right? And it's a cool take, and I'm a Chinese medicine practitioner, so I love Chinese astro, like all forms of astrology. But so for those interested, please join my Substack, because I write a few articles on there, and there's a few more talks coming up. But lately I've been focusing on the moon. I'm just in the midst of clinics being busy, so I'm just focusing on trying to get a few other presentations organized that seem to be taking a little bit longer than usual. But anyway, we're in Scorpio season, right? Scorpio season's among us, and it's the time of the year, right, when the sun descends into the underworld. And in Chinese astrology, funnily enough, right, the animals that are associated with the descent of the sun, so to speak, are the dog and the pig. So people who have these animal branches in their 4 pillars chart are actually quite connected to the underworld, or can be quite intuitive, and most likely do have some psychic abilities as well. I did a presentation years ago, I think it's still on my YouTube channel, about psychic symbolism in Chinese astrology, because people are interested, and I personally am. I love the paranormal stuff, and it's a lot of people into tarot and astrology, things like this, really love these kind of subjects. And so for those, who funnily enough do have a dog and pig in their 4 pillars chart, this can be similar to having either Scorpio suns or a lot of planetary placements in Scorpio. So this is how we tend to look at things from the animal zodiac in Chinese astrology. So the Scorpio being a deep and introspective sign, so at this new moon, right, it's a great time to align our inner goals, pretty much. So new moons typically indicate renewals, so we can work on manifestations, right? We can work on really what we want to manifest, and put our intentions out there. This is one of the great things about astrology, right? It gives us the ability to be able to plan ahead, right? This is one of the beauties of it. So, Scorpio is an emotional sign. It's a fixed water sign, so it's like ice. It has a tendency to hold on, or finds it difficult, right, to let go of past hurts and traumas, right? A lot of people with the emotional trauma and things like this, they could, if you want the metaphor of the ice, it's like picking it away with an ice pick, chipping it away. It can be very difficult to release some of the emotional hurts and emotional traumas. But funnily enough, I'll throw this in while we're here, when we look at trauma actually from a Chinese medical point of view, right? Because the great psychologists, right, like Reich, Wilhelm Reich, Arthur Janoff, these guys knew the body's the shadow, and it holds on to the trauma, right? But from a bodily perspective, from Chinese medicine, we tend to go to what we call low channel treatments, right? Which is connected to bleeding or bloodletting, right? Because the blood contains the spirit and the blood holds the trauma. So I'm just throwing this out there because this is a really important thing, and clinically I've observed this with amazing results in terms of transformational of inner healing, inner traumas. And at this moon, this moon, particularly the Scorpio moon, is a great time to set intentions on our own inner healing and our own psychological goals, right? Because this is really important in the sign of Scorpio, when Scorpio manifests. Scorpio to me is a great resilient sign. It's definitely connected to the alchemist. This can be a time of transformation, a time to transform ourselves, in areas of the chart where the Scorpio new moon is placed, right? And usually when that happens is we're going to come out through facing our own vulnerability and shadow, a lot more self-aware, a lot more enlightened, and a lot more in tune with ourselves. And this is one of the really cool things about this sign. I particularly, I find Scorpio an incredible sign, actually, over the years, and plays out in many ways, obviously, and expressed through different planetaries. Scorpio expressed through the planets expressing themselves through the sign is really interesting to observe. But there's a lot of kind of things going on at this new moon as well. So Mercury will retrograde back into Scorpio around this new moon, out of Sagittarius back into Scorpio. So this is going to form an exact conjunction with the Sun at this point, and what's called a cazimi, which is a powerful conjunction, right? The cazimi is in exact conjunction, the same degree. So it's not under the Sun's beams, or it's not combust the Sun, right? So I personally think this conjunction can indicate a powerful insight into the mind, almost like a death and a rebirth moment where some deep and profound ideas and insights can come to fruition. This will definitely be a time when the mind is sharpened, a lot of clarity comes to mind, especially when it comes to research, truth, and probing beyond the veil, right? Because the Scorpio likes to look beneath the surface of things. So in degree theory too, I tend to look at this a little bit. I find it interesting, and I think it adds different flavors to not just how the planet is expressing through a sign. The degree is really important to pay attention to. So this degree is in 28 degrees in Cancer. And so it's a Cancerian degree, the 28 degrees. So there will be, this moon will have a nurturing, sensitive, and vulnerability to it. So Cancer is connected to the family. So there may be transformational changes to do with the family, home, and ancestral healing can be happening at this point, at this new moon. And this new moon to me, because I always pay attention to the decans, right? Which is important, because when we really get into the grips of astrology and things, there's 12 houses, but they're divided by 3, so there's really 36. And these are all connected to the tarot, right? So, and this decan this new moon falls in is a seven of what they call 7 of Scorpio, or the 7 of Cups, right? So the frequency of this card is actually, funnily enough, connected to the planet Venus, which gives a desire to create and be productive, right? But this card of Venus and Scorpio, which I find interesting at the moment, because Venus is actually transiting in the sign of Scorpio. And this card's come up, right, at this time, at this new moon. And the 7 of Scorpio has an instinctive personal charm to it. It's creative power, adaptability, and a strong will. Scorpio can have that fierce will, right? There's usually a conflict that lies between the positive urge to create and a negative of laziness, right? So Venus is currently in fall in Scorpio and expresses, and when Venus is in fall in Scorpio, it expresses affection intensely, passionately, obsessively, and with extreme consuming feelings. So, and what I'd say the positive of this, because this is the card, right? You can see the picture here. This is the Seven of Cups. It's one of the cards of illusions, actually, and can potentially be emotional confusions. The 7, the number, can be quite difficult, right? But the positives of this card in connection to this new moon is the ability to learn very easily and absorb new ideas with great speed and intensity. And this can also be reflective, right, of the Mercury cazimi taking place at this time, right? We can really absorb some profound ideas at this time. And I'll talk about this when I go through all the 12 signs. The negatives of this card is that the intensity and emotions that are likely to arise at this time can give us a fickle instability, possibly rejecting new ideas, and find difficulty and suffering illusions when it comes to facing our shadows, because this is one of the cards that's all about illusions. And so this card can make us prone to be self-indulgent, toxic behavior, laziness, and evading responsibilities and making decisions. So like with all new moons in astrology, we pay attention to the sign the moon is ruled by. And of course, Scorpio is ruled by Mars, and of course the traditional ruler is Mars, but the later, the more modern ruler is Pluto. So it's good to pay attention to both these planets and where they're sitting in your chart. There's a number of aspects going on with this new moon. I've already mentioned the Mercury cazimi, but the other aspects is a grand water trine going on. The Saturn-Neptune conjunction is there, and in trine with Jupiter. And there's also a sextile to Pluto and an opposition to the planet Uranus. So for Aries rising, you will have the new moon in your 8th house. And the 8th house generally deals with all the Scorpio themes of intimacy, shadow, joint finances, taxes, wills, and inheritances. So the Mercury retrograde cazimi in this house will make you go into deep dives into these issues involved with this house. I would say at this time, probably setting goals and intentions around paying off debts is a good idea at this time. Deep-seated issues can arise in terms of joining finances with others. So there can be a little bit of fears and angst around this. If the fears are around, it's a good time to set intentions to rise above them and do your inner psychological homework. This new moon will definitely make you look at vulnerability in a different light, right? Because the 8th house is one of the houses of the psyche, one of the deep psychological houses. It can be definitely a time to focus on partnership empowerment, right? Because it's about joining and merging with someone else, that being either a professional or a intimate partner. So especially with Pluto in the 11th, indicating connections from networking, powerful, right? You may meet powerful people through social events and networks that can elevate you in some way. Then there's also Mars in the 9th house, which can indicate firing up the mind, and you can put your energy into expanding your beliefs, which can lead to profound ideas at this time. So Uranus in opposition to the 2nd will most likely reflect fears about joint finances, right? Because definitely if you guys have had Uranus moving through that 2nd house for quite a number of years, and this can really make your finances, there can be really shocking things that can happen, but dramatic changes. They can be doing really well, then all of a sudden they can swing, which probably can make you at this time even make you feel vulnerable to investing just because of this instability. But I would just say, really focus on paying off debts if you have them. It's a really good time to set intentions with them, and don't be afraid of emotional intimacy. Taurus rising will have this new moon in the 7th house, the house of spouse, clients, therapists, and it has a connection to the marketplace as well. So Mars, ruler of the 7th, is in the 8th house, connecting to the new moon, affecting you psychologically and professionally, with Pluto in the 10th house as well. So the Mercury retrograde in the 7th can indicate you have some sort of breakthrough when it comes to new relationships. Deep conversations and breakthrough and communications can definitely occur at this time to clear the slate of things that haven't had clarity within your relationships, that being professional and personal. The opposition to Uranus can put pressure on you to adapt and change in relationships, with also the possibility of breaking free. This can be a professional and intimate relationships again. The Lord of your chart is Venus in the 7th house, one of the best places for all relationships. And if you are single, you can attract someone new, especially with that opposition to with Uranus, which can bring sudden and shocking surprises. So you guys, the Taurus rising, may be in for some surprising action with this new moon coming up in Scorpio in your 7th house. Gemini rising will have this new moon in the 6th house, a house dedicated to health, routines, jobs, pets, and service. The Mercury cazimi will have a great impact on you, actually, because obviously you are ruled by Mercury in your chart. So you could have some profound insights about something to do with your job, health, or how to serve others. The opposition to Uranus in the 12th can wire your nervous system up, giving you some rise to stress and erratic sleep patterns, possibly causing insomnia, right? So a good time to balance out the Shen and the spirit, right, which is connected actually to the 12th house. Now, this is Chinese medical terms, but I would suggest definitely, if this is the case, you'd need treatments like acupuncture, which can be quite good at stabilizing the nervous system and things like this to help you sleep better. But I would be setting new intentions around healthy work routines at this time, as there can be a possibility of burnout, right? So toxic habits can come to light with this new moon placement in the 6th, and you may be aware of these and make profound changes which will be needed. And you'll feel the effects of these clearly 6 months later with the the full moon in Scorpio. Cancer rising will have this new moon in the 5th house, which connects to romance, children, creativity, risk-taking, and hobbies. So a renewal and a reset around these topics is on the cards with this new moon. Mars is the ruler of your 6th house, house of health, habits and daily routines, and Pluto in the 8th house in connection with joint resources, finances, and intimate relationships. So there can be passionate new beginnings for you guys that will require depth and intimacy, right? A good time to set intentions around fertility, right? Especially for people who want to have children, because the 5th house rules children. And or give birth to a creative project that you've wanted to do for quite a while. So I'd take risks with creative projects, having fun and romance. And with that Uranus opposition in the 11th, I would definitely put yourself out there to network with, take risks to socially network in groups that are outside your comfort zone, because you may find that you may make some good connections to launch, especially if you've got some creative ideas and projects. This could be a good time to get the work out there and set the intentions around that. Leo rising will have the new moon in the 4th house, where the moon feels nice and comfortable and at home in this house. So family, home, and ancestry are all connected to this house. The sun rules your chart, right, and is of particular importance because, especially if you're born under a lunar phase, a new moon phase, this is important because the sun is steering the ship of your destiny, not only from your ascendant sign, but if you're born under the new moon phase as well, the sun is particularly of importance as well. So there can be resets in all these kind of areas in your chart, particularly with family, home, and ancestry. There can be changes on the home front brought on by relationships or by children, as Mars is in the 5th house and Pluto rules the 7th house of relationships at this moment, or Pluto's transiting there. So the Mercury Sun Cazimi in this 4th house rules your 2nd house of finances. So this can bring up some ideas actually around buying a home. It's a good time to set intentions around purchasing real estate or where you'd like to be living. There can be transformations of emotion in the home base and possibly a move or change of residence in connection to a partner. Maybe you're going to connect to a partner and move in with them. This can also possibly lead to uncomfortable conversations around family dynamics and issues that need to be addressed within the family. This will transform family dynamics and possibly cause upsets and changes in the workspace, as Uranus is in opposition in the 10th house at this point in time. And that in turn could flip around. So there can be changes at work that can affect home, or work changes at home that can affect work. Virgo and Virgo rising will have this new moon in the 3rd house of communications, learning, short journeys, courses, the lower mind, neighbors, and siblings. So this is especially important as you're ruled by Mercury again, right? As you have this Cazimi aspect to the sun. So at this time, there will be intense conversations and profound changes within your mind. I would set intentions around probing deep within your own mind as a good time for some profound thinking, generating some profound ideas. Uranus in the 9th house in opposition will make you think outside of the box and receive sudden revelations and profound insights. These can be philosophical, religious, or spiritual. Conversations, particularly with neighbors, can be transformational at this time, because the 3rd house rules the neighbors. And it's a great new moon, actually, I would say, for any kind of writing project. That'd be journaling, podcasts, or writing a book, or even a blog thing like Substack, something like that. It's a good time to get some really deep, profound ideas out into the world for the Virgo rising. So I would focus on that and set intentions around that if that's what you feel you need to do at this time. Libra rising will have this new moon in the 2nd house of values, personal resources, and finances. So this is a good time for money, manifestations, and setting goals for long-term finance. Mercury retrograde will push you to reevaluate your finances, especially in the sign of Scorpio. And having Venus in Scorpio in the 2nd house at this time as well, there can be extra emphasis on this because Venus rules money, as with the planet Pluto as well, and the sign of Scorpio. So there will be a rebirth to do with your finances and your personal values and self-esteem. So I would set intentions around this, because in 6 months' time, when the full moon is in Scorpio, it will be a good time to see what you've actually manifested or how your finances or portfolio has progressed. It can be abundant time for you to focus on this at this time, because Scorpio is actually a very resilient sign, and it's one of the signs for accumulating and holding on, right? Because it's fixed water. The planet Uranus in opposition in the 8th house can indicate changes in joint finances, investments, possibly spending money. Possibly you need to spend money to make money, right? Another important thing to emphasize here is don't let your finances define your self-worth and personal value. A lot of people do, and you can tend to do this, particularly as Venus is transiting it at this time, but a lot of people do put their monetary value onto self-worth and self-esteem. So it can be a very good time actually at this point to set new intentions around exploring your own self-worth, exploring the nature of your own self-esteem. And I would set intentions around that, especially if people have been struggling with that for the Libra rising, because Venus is the lord of your chart again as well, so it's important to pay attention where Venus is moving as well. Scorpio rising will have this new moon in the first house of self, appearance, identity, immediate environment, and then the first house rules your physical body. So your new intentions set can be to project out into your environment what am I trying to say here? Whatever you project out into your immediate environment, others are definitely going to experience it as well, particularly with the Uranus opposition in the 7th house of relationships, right? So it's you versus them, so to speak. There's a connection with Mars in your 2nd and Pluto in the 4th with money and home at this point. So Mars in the 2nd can make you burn through money quicker than usual. And I would say with Mars in the 2nd and Pluto in the 1st, there can be either some people may have intentions of spending money and renovating their house, because this can happen. Pluto actually rules this. Or there's an emphasis on some possible change in the home environment. So I would definitely set intentions around that if that's what you feel like that you need to be doing. There can be something specifically you want to change about yourselves. And I think the first house does rule the self, and anything when Scorpio's in a fixed sign, it's going to require some depth or some really kind of personal work that is going to be, it's going to require some, fixed water. So it's going to be difficult to change something about yourself. But I think setting intentions around this, it can be even physically how you look. It's going to require some kind of discipline if that's what it is. But there's something to do with the body or the self and your appearance about what you really want to change and transform. And I think it'll be quite not so difficult to do, actually, because there's a harmonious trine there between the planet Saturn, which can actually give you the discipline over time to be able to do this. So who you are particularly becoming from a personal point of view is going to transform your relationships, family, and your home life. Sagittarius rising will have this new moon in the 12th house. This is very private placement, actually, the 12th house, the house of retreat, the house of rest, healing, inner work, examining our own psyches. This is going to be a profound for the Sag rising at the moment. And with this Mercury Cazimi in the 12th house, can indicate a profound awakening to some part of our consciousness that has not actually come to light before. It can definitely be a spiritual enlightenment of some kind, or a good time to meditate and really go within that can reveal something to us from our own inner life, or something that's been repressed over a period of time. So the Mercury retrograde in this house can show us where we need to pay attention to. We may need to pay attention to our mental health in some way. Right? And there may be an old psychological pattern that may resurface that needs to be healed at this time. It can be a good time to have therapy if need be, especially with the Uranus opposition to the 6th house. There can be many chops and changes actually with Uranus in the 6th that can really disrupt the workflow of life. So the work-life balance is really important to have treatments to balance the nervous system out as well. Mars in the 1st can actually give us a lot of motivation to tackle life head on, and Pluto in the 3rd also can stimulate some profound thinking through inner reflections in connection with the 12th. So this is a really deep time for the Sag rising, and I would really encourage people to even get a little bit creative and mystical in terms of exploring the inner life, like use things like tarot and that symbolism that can reflect parts of our unconscious back to us, that can really enlighten us. We have Capricorn rising. We have the new moon in the 11th house to do with friends, networking, goals, socializing, hopes, and wish fulfillment. This is a good time to reevaluate goals and set new intentions around them. This new moon is around a network rebirth. And with the planets in Scorpio, this kind of networking, you won't really want to do it with any superficial people. You want to be around people that are, in terms of where you need to get to, possibly with work or whatever it is, then it needs to have some depth and meaning to it. It's not just a mindless superficial catch up with friends, right? The Uranus in opposition in the 5th house can show that we've been working on something creative or possibly outside the box. And I think it would be a good time to reveal it to your social networks if you can, or see where these projects can actually go, right? Pluto in the 2nd is sextile to the moon, can indicate some financial opportunity that's come through some social networks as well. So it's a good time to connect with powerful alliances at this time. Pluto rules power, which can help transform your social dynamics in some profound way. I'd also say too, secrets can be revealed through social networks, particularly with Mars in the 12th house, right? It's the house of secrets, the house of hidden enemies, they call it in medieval astrology, right? But a lot of the time, the hidden enemies are a lot to do with our own unconscious and unprocessed things of our shadows, our own shadows. But just be aware of this on some level, because the Mercury cazimi in retrograde can reveal some secret, especially within the work environment, as Mercury is in your 6th house in Gemini at the moment. As Gemini rules your 6th house for the Capricorn rising. Aquarius rising will have this new moon in the 10th house, bringing new intentions around career status and recognition. So the sextile to Pluto in the 1st house will make you feel empowered at this time when it comes to career. And if you would like an elevation, I'd say, in status in your role at work, then this is a really good time to set intentions around this and see where it plays out in 6 months. With the next full moon in Pluto. So I would say that dramatic changes will happen in work and a professional rebirth of some kind. With the Mercury cazimi in the 10th house, we can show some people actually with the Mercury, and it's retrograde too, so maybe you've left work and then maybe you get offered a different opportunity that may, in the same job, you may get asked to come back and it will elevate your status. Maybe you get a better offer, but sometimes usually Mercury retrograde going through the 10th, we can go back to an old place of work. Something to think about as well. Mars in the 11th can show that there's some leadership potential or running groups, or possibly there could be competition for you when it comes to wanting a role in leading groups as well. So maybe after a role and there's some competition, some people are going to play out for the same role. But whatever, is going on in your career, the Uranus opposition will disrupt it because, as it's in the 4th house in your home environment, and could indicate a possible move as well. For Pisces and Pisces rising, will have this new moon in the 9th house of higher education, belief, philosophies, foreign cultures, and travel. So new intentions can be set around expansion in education if you want to go back to uni to further your studies, but it doesn't actually have to be a formal education. You may just have your own personal goals you want to set where it comes to understanding certain subjects like philosophy or studying foreign cultures or whatever it is, right? That, usually the 9th house is the higher mind, so you may just have your own ambitious goals in regards to doing your own homework to understand a subject better. The Mercury retrograde cazimi is taking place here as well. So this can be obviously one of the houses of travel. So if your travel is scheduled or you've got accommodation and things planned, then just double check, right? Because there's a chance of things getting screwed up with Mercury in retrograde, as I think as a lot of people would have experienced if you pay attention to these, especially what Mercury's doing. Mercury is connected to your 7th house of relationships, so if travel is on the cards, there's potential to meet someone. Pluto in the 12th in connection with the 9th house can be a rebirth of ideas, or profound thoughts and ideas can be resurfaced through the unconscious. Mars in the 10th can sure fire up your career goals, igniting ambition. Mars in the 10th can be quite ambitious and really motivated and driven to succeed. The opposition to Uranus in the 3rd can be changes in communication and the way you learn. So there may be some learning you're doing that requires some stretching of the mind and becoming maybe a little bit unconventional with your thinking as well. But with the water trines with Saturn and Jupiter, I suggest using your intuition when it comes to choosing schools, mentors and teachers, or any kind of other subjects that you really want to dig into. And that is the last sign for my little take on this new moon coming up. And yeah, everyone, just feel free to subscribe to my Substack and of course my channel here if you like my content, and strap yourselves in for Year of the Horse coming up, because that is going to be a good one. And like I said before at the beginning, feel free to DM me your dates of birth and we will run through your 4 pillars Chinese astrological chart. And when I aim to do it around February next year, which is not that far off. So I will keep plugging videos and I'll give you guys plenty of time to warn when these lives will take place. And thanks for listening. I appreciate you and all my new subscribers.